Hello and welcome to HITC Sport, and once again it's the dreaded international break, where teams continue to travel all over the world for pointless friendlies despite still being in the midst of a global pandemic. Gareth Southgate's three lions are in action once again, so today what I'm going to do is look at every Premier League club and find out who was the last player from that team to score for England. Arsenal, Danny Welbeck, 2018. Despite being one of the biggest teams in the country, Arsenal haven't actually had an England goal scorer for more than 2 years. Their influence on the three lions has waned in recent years, and it's only now with the emergence of Bukayo Saka that they've actually got another chance of having an England goal scorer, although he's more adverse to putting the ball in his own net at the minute. But for the last Arsenal player to score for England, you've got to go back to the 7th of June 2018, when England were preparing for the World Cup in Russia. Welbeck netted a diving header to seal a 2-0 win over Costa Rica, the last time he scored in what was a surprisingly prolific international career. Aston Villa, Darren, 2011. It's been 9 years since an Aston Villa man found the net for England. Christ, even if Jack Grealish breaks that run now, Gareth Southgate will still find a way of gifting that goal to Mason Mount. But 9 years ago, England were on the brink of qualification for Euro 2012, with a point needed in Montenegro to secure their place. That's what they got, with the 2-2 draw sealing qualification. And on the score sheet was Villa forward Darren, a man who had to move from one crap team to another in Sunderland to Villa just to get a look in with England, because as we all know, England managers just don't come to the North East. But this game will never be remembered for Bend, rather the reckless red card that Wayne Rooney picked up back when he was still public enemy number 1. Brighton, no one. That's right, never in the history of football since the England team came to be has a player representing Brighton scored for England. Not one, not even a single strike in a win against someone like Andorra or San Marino. In fact, only 4 players have ever played for England whilst playing for the Seagulls, with the first being Tommy Cook way back in 1925. Christ, this is in danger of becoming a HITC7's video, although I bet Alfie would give you the inner workings and the career of Cook, telling you his favourite meal and why he never brushed his teeth on a Sunday. Anyway, the most recent Brighton player to represent England was Lewis Dunk, who unsurprisingly didn't score in his one and only appearance. Burnley, John Connelly, 1962. Oh yeah, we're going full HITC7s now. Do not adjust your television sets, lads, this is still HITC Sport, even though we never talk about anything that happened before 1992. Christ, even if it happened before 2005 it barely gets a mention. A lot has happened since Burnley last had an England goal scorer. I mean, we even won a sodden World Cup. The man was John Connelly, a Burnley legend who actually helped the Clouds win the First Division title in 1960. 2 years later he would find the net in a 4-0 win for England over Wales, before adding another 3 goals to his tally after joining Man United. Chelsea, Mason Mount, 2020. With the way Chelsea are playing, this record might have been changed by the end of this international break, but at the time of recording, the last blue to score for England was Mason Mount on October 11th of this year. The goal secured a comeback victory over Belgium just last month, though it will hardly go down as the best goal Mount's ever scored. I mean, it took a massive deflection, probably off Southgate's raging hard on for the Chelsea midfielder. But whatever, they all count, and secured a big friendly victory over one of the best teams in the world, Belgium. Crystal Palace, Peter Taylor, 1976. Once again we're going back in time, as always, because all of these goals are from the past, not the future, and the last Crystal Palace player to score for England is actually a man who once managed England. But considering he's managed about 1 million clubs, it's the law of averages that he would end up in charge of England, even if it was just as caretaker. But Peter Taylor played for England 4 times and found the net twice, both during his time with Palace. This goal came on the 8th of May 1976 in a 1-0 win over Wales, way back when Facebook wasn't a thing and ABBA were number 1 with Fernando. Christ, what a time to be alive. Everton, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, 2020. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's incredible start of the new season got him into Gareth Southgate's England team during the last international break, and he repaid that faith with a neat header against the Welsh. Christ, everyone's scoring against Wales. I suppose it's easy when Gareth Bale isn't around. That was Calvert-Lewin's one and only England goal so far, set up by the wonderful Jack Grealish, although you've got to give a lot of the credit to Mason Mount really, who was fabulous. Yes, I'm going to run this joke into the ground, deal with it. Fulham, John Haynes, 1961. I mean, it was hardly going to be Ademola Lookman, was it? If England are in another penalty shootout, the last person I'd want stepping up is that lad. I mean, what was he doing? Last kick of the game, things are desperate for him, and he goes and does that. It was a worse idea than the American in-betweeners. Fulham's last England goal scorer was Johnny Haynes, a man who actually captained his country 22 times and was the first Englishman to be paid £100, the absolute baller. His last England goal came against old rival Scotland, with Haynes scoring twice in a huge 9-3 victory over the Tartan Army. Leeds United, Alan Smith, 2002. With Leeds' rotten 21st century, it's no surprise that the last player to score for the Three Lions was 18 years ago, way back in 2002. It was Alan Smith who scored, back when he was a bundle and nightmare of a striker who didn't know of his midfield future that faced him. Smith's one and only England goal came on September 7, 2002 on his debut against Portugal, with Leeds teammate Lee Bowyer providing the assist. Fast forward 18 years and we're just a Patrick Bamford call away from him and Calvin Phillips recreating that moment. Leicester City, Harry Maguire 2018. To my surprise, Jamie Vardy wasn't the last Leicester player to score for England. The blue-wicket fanatic has called time in his England career, with his last international goal coming in March 2018. Then a few months later, under the sweltering Russian sun in the World Cup quarter-final against Sweden, big old slabhead Harry Maguire crashed home a header to send England into the final four of football's greatest tournament. Since that day, no Leicester player has scored for England, while Harry Maguire's career has spiralled out of control like the magic roundabout. Liverpool, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain 2019. Scouse not English, am I right? For all of Liverpool's successes, they haven't been as big a hit in front of goal at international level, mainly because Jordan Henderson is seemingly allergic to scoring for his country. The last Liverpool player to do so was the Ox, with a little mixed love netting England's first in a 7-0 win over Montenegro last year. Manchester City, Raheem Sterling 2020. From a current red to a former one, the last Man City player to score for England is arguably one of the best the three lions have got, with Raheem Sterling slotting away a last-minute penalty in one of the most boring games known to man. It was England's first international back after football was put on hold, and they celebrated instead with a game so drab you wish they hadn't bothered. Honestly lads, we were much happier watching old games and doing Zoom quizzes while tucking into some banana bread. Manchester United, Marcus Rashford 2020. We've got back-to-back penalties here, and even when Man United aren't actually playing, they're still getting spot kicks. While normally it's Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford got the job this time, mainly because Fernandes is Portuguese, and found the net to get England level against Belgium on October 11th this year. Just think, if he'd spent his time focused on his football instead of the starving children, he might have scored even more. Newcastle United, Michael Owen 2007. The last time a Newcastle player scored for England was Michael Owen on September 12th, 2007. 13 years ago. Mike Ashley's reign in charge of the Magpies had only just begun. No one had ever heard of Amanda Staveley, and Saudi Arabia was just a country who got beat 8-0 by Germany at the 2002 World Cup. 13 years on, Mike Ashley's still there, and no toon player can even get close to the England team. Not even Callum Wilson, one of the Premier League's top scorers despite playing one of the least attacking teams I've ever seen. Sheffield United, Tony Currie 1973. The last time a Sheffield United player played for England was Brian Deane in 1992. You've got to go back another 19 years to get the last goal. It came courtesy of Tony Currie, who scored in a 7-0 win over Austria on his fourth cap for his country. Will we ever get another Blades player scoring for England? I mean, at the minute we're wondering if Ryan Brewster will ever score again. There seems more chance of Dominic Solanke getting another cap. Southampton, Danny Ings 2020. Just like CALVERT-LEWIN, Danny Ings scored his first England goal the other week against Wales, making him the first Southampton player to score for England since Ryan Burton did in 2017. I mean, I forgot all about Ryan Burton scoring for England at all, but I do remember him getting sent off in a 9-0 defeat against Leicester last season, just in case you forgot. I mean, it doesn't get mentioned much, does it? Tottenham, Harry Kane 2019. No surprises here, the last Tottenham player to score for England was the captain himself, good old Harry Kane. However, he hasn't scored for England since international football returned earlier this year. His last goal was back in November 2019, scoring in a 4-0 win over Kosovo, an hour after his Spurs teammate Harry Winks had given England the lead. 1 year on, Harry Kane will be looking to get back on the score sheet, mainly because he won't be able to set up Son Heung-min. West Brom, Brian Robson 1981. Not many West Brom players have represented England in recent years, with the last being Jake Livermore, a man who unsurprisingly never scored for his country. West Brom's last England goalscorer was a club legend in Brian Robson, scoring the first of 26 international goals in a 2-1 loss against Norway on the 9th of September 1981. His other 25 goals came as a Man United player, with Robson eventually going on to captain England. West Ham, Matt Upson 2010. This is a proper pub quiz answer. Who scored England's only goal in the 4-1 defeat to Germany at the 2010 World Cup? It wasn't Frank Lampard, I'll tell you that for now, despite the ball being so far over the line that Lampard was probably thinking about his own celebration. It wasn't given, and England's actual goal scorer that day was Matt Upson. A saving grace for the defender, who was having an absolute nightmare on what would be his final England appearance. Wolves, Conor COADY 2020. Conor bloody COADY. The man doesn't do goals, he doesn't even do shots. Give him a tequila and he'll boot it into Rose Ed. Yet against Wales back in October, not only did COADY have a couple of shots, he actually scored his first England goal. Some mad things have happened in 2020, and Conor COADY scoring for England has to be up there alongside Donald Trump wanting to fight off COVID with a bottle of bleach. So there we go, that's every Premier League club's last player to score for England. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. As always, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to HAYNES Sport, and until next time we will see you around.